Every few years, the same headlines return. Growth is either slowing or booming. Banks are lending too much or not enough. It can feel as though the economy is lurching from crisis to crisis, unpredictable and chaotic. But what if these movements aren't random at all? Economists have a name for this pattern: the business cycle, the recurring sequence of expansion and contraction that every economy goes through. India presents a unique case. Before 1991, it was a planned and largely closed economy. When downturns occurred, they were usually triggered by a bad monsoon or an oil price shock. Then came liberalization, transforming India's business cycle into a faster-paced, demand-driven, and globally integrated one. A growing body of research now helps us understand how these cycles work, what drives them, and why they matter. We focus on 4 such papers and highlight their findings. The first paper constructed a chronology of business cycle turning points in the post-reform period and identified 3 distinct recessions after liberalization. It found that expansions in post-reform India lasted, on average, about 12 quarters, roughly 3 years. Recessions lasted around 9 quarters, just over 2 years. More importantly, the nature of these cycles changed significantly. Agriculture's share of GDP fell from over 51% in 1951 to under 14% by 2013, while services rose from 30% to 57%. Monsoon shocks matter far less than they once did. What now drives cycles is firm behavior, investment decisions, inventory management, and expectations about profits. India moved from weather-driven cycles to market-driven cycles, and this transformation had a measurable impact on volatility. The second paper found that macroeconomic volatility declined significantly after 1991. GDP, investment, and government expenditure all became less volatile. The authors attributed this to structural changes. Investment became more closely synchronized with output. Net exports shifted from being a cyclical to counter-cyclical, a pattern typical of advanced economies. And once an expansion or contraction began, it tended to last longer than before. So the Indian economy now moves in cycles. But what drives the turning points? What tips an expansion into a slowdown or a slowdown into recovery? A key part of the answer lies in credit. A third paper examined this relationship, and its findings are striking. Credit, investment, and GDP move together in a systematic pattern. Credit cycles often provide early warning signals about where the broader economy is headed. When banks lend freely, firms invest and GDP grows. When credit tightens, investment slows and growth follows. The paper also found that India's domestic financial cycle diverges from the global financial cycle. The credit investment growth nexus in India has its own rhythm, shaped by domestic policy and institutional factors rather than simply imported from abroad. But here's where it becomes more nuanced. A complementary study found that the business cycle leads the credit cycle, not the other way around. Output growth comes first, credit expansion follows. So which is it? Does credit lead output or does output lead credit? The answer is both. Over the long run, the stock of credit, the health of bank balance sheets, and the availability of liquidity shape the environment in which firms make investment decisions. In the short run, rising economic activity generates demand for credit, which then amplifies the cycle further. The two forces reinforce each other. The question is not which one matters, but which one dominates at different points in the cycle. Events such as demonetization and the banking NPA crisis visibly disrupted both cycles. A reminder that domestic policy shocks can interrupt the economy's natural rhythm. So what does this body of research tell us? For policymakers, the message is clear. Monitoring credit conditions is essential, but not sufficient. Real economy indicators must be tracked alongside financial data. The Reserve Bank of India's macroprudential tools, capital buffers, provisioning norms, and sectoral lending guidelines are critical for moderating credit-driven booms. Counter-cyclical fiscal policy remains indispensable for supporting demand during downturns. For businesses and investors, the research offers a practical benchmark. Post-reform expansions in India tend to last about 3 years. Recessions typically run just over 2. Understanding where the economy stands in the cycle can inform better decisions on capital expenditure, inventory management, and risk. And for the rest of us, anyone reading the morning headlines and wondering whether the economy is in trouble, these findings offer perspective. A slowdown is not a breakdown. It is the economy moving through its cycle. The Indian economy has changed profoundly since 1991. It is more stable, more resilient, and more connected to global patterns than ever before. But it still moves in cycles. And the better we understand those cycles, their drivers, their duration, and their turning points, the better equipped we are to navigate them.